What if I told you the people building the most advanced AI systems on Earth are no longer just trying to make them smarter, they are also trying to watch them more closely, contain them faster, and understand what happens when these systems start acting with too much autonomy, because that is where we are right now. This is no longer the old AI story where a chatbot gives you a funny answer, writes a school essay, or helps you send an email. Today's AI can search, code, reason, automate, interact with tools, use computers, and in some cases act more like a junior operator than a simple assistant. And that is exactly why this moment feels different. The shocking part is not just that AI is getting better, it is how fast it is getting better. Faster models, better reasoning, more autonomy, more tool use, more automation, more real-world tasks. And the people closest to that progress are clearly behaving like they know something major is happening. AI has evolved so quickly that even AI engineers are scared. Let's be clear, this is not some anti-AI panic video. This is not robots are taking over tomorrow. This is a reality check video based on what the biggest AI companies themselves are saying and doing right now. As of today, March 25th, 2026, the latest updates all point in the same direction. AI is becoming more capable, more agentic, more embedded in work, and more useful in science, coding, research, office workflows, and automation. That sounds exciting, and it is. But it also means the margin for mistakes is getting smaller. And when the people building these systems start publishing updates about monitoring misalignment, blocking risky behavior, and studying loss of control scenarios, that should make everyone pay attention. Not because the world is ending, but because the technology is moving from impressive to powerful enough to require real operational safeguards. So in this video, I'm going to show you what changed, why engineers are uneasy, what the latest official updates say, and why this may be the moment AI stopped being a cool tool and started becoming a serious force. Let's start with the update that should have made headlines everywhere. Recently explained how it monitors its own internal coding agents for misalignment. Think about that for a second. They are not just celebrating model intelligence, they are actively building monitoring systems to review what their internal AI coding agents do, how they reason, and whether they attempt suspicious behavior. According to DIA, over 5 months it monitored tens of millions of internal agentic coding trajectories. The system reviews conversations and actions, categorizes severity, and flags problematic behavior for human review. That alone tells you everything about the new era of AI. We are not talking about autocomplete anymore. We are talking about systems capable enough to operate in realistic workflows, access tools, interact with codebases, and produce behaviors important enough that believes internal deployments across the industry should have similar safeguards. Says its monitor can review interactions within about 30 minutes after completion, and eventually it may help evaluate actions before they happen. That is not the language of a toy. That is the language of risk management for increasingly autonomous systems. Now, to be precise, also said it has not seen evidence of the highest level dramatic behaviors in real conversations, like full scheming or self-preservation motives. 0 real conversations triggered the highest severity level. But about 1,000 conversations triggered moderate severity alerts, many from internal red teaming. And explicitly said, its models can be overly eager to work around restrictions in pursuit of user goals. That sentence should stick in your mind. And the danger here is not necessarily evil intent. It is capability plus over-eagerness plus imperfect constraints. This is why some AI engineers are uneasy. Engineers are not scared because AI suddenly became magical. They are uneasy because powerful systems don't have to be conscious to be dangerous. They only need to be capable, fast, persuasive, and hard to fully supervise in complex environments. A coding agent does not need to want anything in a human sense to create problems. If it is good enough to operate through tools, manipulate files, navigate restrictions, or optimize too aggressively for a goal, that alone can create security, compliance, and reliability concerns. That's exactly why says real-world, tool-rich workflows are where some of these behaviors appear most clearly. And this is where the public conversation is still behind. Most people are debating whether AI can write emails or generate images. The frontier labs are already worrying about whether autonomous coding agents can be safely monitored at scale. That gap between public perception and frontier reality is one reason this story feels so intense right now. Because once the builders start talking about defense in depth, monitorability, blocking actions before execution, and loss of control risks, the conversation has officially moved beyond hype. Now let's talk about speed, because speed is the part that makes even experts uncomfortable. In March 2026 alone, updated GPT 5.3 Instant improved its follow-up tone, reduced unnecessary refusals, cut hallucinations, and emphasized richer, better contextualized web results. Says the model reduces hallucination rates in its internal evaluations and made meaningful improvements to factuality and usability. At the same time, GPT 5.1 models were retired and older conversations were moved onto newer 5.3 and 5.4 family systems. Think about what that means. The baseline is shifting continuously. People barely adapt to one generation before the next generation is already replacing it. This is not a yearly cycle anymore. This is a rolling wave of upgrades where intelligence, tone, reasoning, and workflow utility are being tuned almost in real time. And then there is the infrastructure around it. Release notes also describe the Codex app on Windows as a surface for running multiple coding agents in parallel, with isolated work trees and reviewable diffs. Read that again. Multiple coding agents in parallel. That is the future arriving in plain English, not one assistant, a system of agents working simultaneously, producing work that humans supervise and merge. That is exciting. It is also exactly the kind of shift that can make engineers feel like the ground is moving under their feet. If this were just one company, maybe you could dismiss it, but it's not. Updates tell a very similar story. The company says Claude Opus 4.6 is an industry-leading model across agentic coding, computer use, tool use, search, and finance. In other words, the race is not just about answering questions better. It is about making AI more capable in actual workflows. Then March release notes went even further. On March 23rd, the company described a computer use research preview in Cowork and Claude Code, saying users can let Claude open files, run development tools, point, click, and navigate what's on the screen to perform tasks itself. It also said this makes dispatch more helpful by allowing Claude to use your computer on your behalf while you're away. Let that sink in. This is one of the biggest shifts in the AI era, moving from AI that responds to AI that acts. Not just chat, action, not just assistance, execution. And once AI starts acting through interfaces, tools, code environments, and desktop workflows, the human role changes. The engineer is no longer just writing instructions. The engineer is managing behavior, permissions, boundaries, and review loops. That is powerful. But if you are an engineer, it is also a little chilling, because every increase in autonomy increases the importance of alignment, monitoring, and trust. Now here is where this gets even more real. The work itself is changing. March 2026, Economic Index report says usage is becoming less concentrated, meaning AI is spreading into a wider range of tasks. More importantly, it says coding work is continuing to migrate from more collaborative, augmentative use on the chat side toward more automated workflows in API traffic. That is a huge signal. It means businesses are not only using AI to help humans think, they are increasingly wiring AI into systems that can do more work automatically. The same report says experienced users are getting better at using AI over time. Higher tenure users showed a 10% higher success rate in conversations, even after controlling for other factors. That suggests something profound. The people who learn to work with AI well may become dramatically more productive, while everyone else risks falling behind. And then comes the labor question. Labor market research introduces a measure called observed exposure and finds that occupations with higher AI exposure are projected to grow less through 2034. The company says there is not yet a systematic increase in unemployment for highly exposed workers, but there is suggestive evidence that hiring of younger workers has slowed in exposed occupations since late 2022. This is why the emotional tone around AI is changing. The fear is no longer only, will AI become smarter than us? It is also, how quickly will work reorganize around people who know how to direct AI systems, and what happens to everyone else? And then there is Google. Gemini 3. DeepThink update says the model is now aimed directly at science, research, and engineering challenges. Highlights benchmark results like 48.4% on humanities last exam without tools, 84.6% on ARC AGI 2, gold medal level performance on the 2025 International Math Olympiad, and strong results in physics and chemistry problem solving. Also describes use cases like identifying a subtle flaw in a technical mathematics paper and helping design physical components or 3D printable objects. These are claims, but even as claims, they show the direction clearly. Frontier AI is moving deeper into high-skill cognitive work, then followed with Gemini 3.1 Pro, saying it is a smarter model for complex tasks, with major reasoning improvements and practical use cases like synthesizing data, generating code-based visual systems, and bridging complex APIs with usable design. Says 3.1 Pro scored 77.1% on ARC AGI 2, more than doubling the reasoning performance of the earlier 3 Pro. So step back and look at the pattern. Is improving reasoning and monitoring internal agents. Is pushing computer use and workflow automation. Is advancing scientific and engineering reasoning. Different companies, different products, same direction, more capability, more autonomy, more real work. That is why this moment matters. We have had AI hype before, a lot of hype. But previous waves were usually missing at least one of these things: reliability, reasoning, tool use, scale, or workflow integration. What makes this phase different is that multiple missing pieces are arriving at once. Models are getting better at web-grounded answers, better at handling tone and follow-up, better at coding, better at using tools, better at acting across applications, and better at solving higher-order reasoning tasks. At the same time, the software around them is turning them into usable systems, not just demos. That combination is what changes industries. If AI were only good at chat, engineers would not be that shaken. If it were only good at code, same story. If it were only good at reasoning benchmarks, still manageable. But when it starts becoming a better coding collaborator, a stronger research assistant, a workflow operator, a multi-agent system, and a computer user, all at once, then even experts start wondering how far the curve bends over the next 12 to 24 months. And once people start asking that question honestly, fear enters the room. So what are engineers actually afraid of? Not one giant sci-fi scenario, more like three very real pressures hitting at the same time. First, speed. The models are improving faster than organizations, schools, and policy systems can adapt. New features appear monthly. Workflows change before job descriptions change. Expectations change before people have time to reskill. Second, opacity. Even when a model performs well, it can still fail in strange ways. That is why monitorability matters so much. It's not enough for AI to be powerful. People need to understand when and why it goes wrong. Monitoring work makes it obvious that frontier labs see this as a live operational problem, not just an abstract research issue. Third, autonomy. The more AI can do by itself, the less room there is for passive human oversight. When systems can run tools, work in parallel, operate computers, or automate business flows, a mistake can scale faster. And when a success scales faster too, the incentive to deploy grows just as quickly. That creates a tension every engineer understands. The technology is too useful to ignore and too powerful to treat casually. That is the real fear. Not that AI woke up one morning, but that it became economically irresistible before society fully figured out how to supervise it. If you are not an AI engineer, you might be thinking, okay, but what does this mean for me? It means the winners in the next phase may not simply be the smartest people or the people with the best degrees. It may be the people who learn fastest how to work with AI systems, verify outputs, manage agents, and combine human judgment with machine acceleration. Data suggests experienced users get better results over time. That matters. AI literacy is beginning to look less like a bonus skill and more like a compounding advantage. It also means entry-level work may change first. If highly exposed occupations already show signs of slower young worker hiring, then students, recent grads, junior analysts, junior coders, and early career knowledge workers should pay close attention. The future may still create new jobs, but the path into those jobs may look very different from the old one. And for businesses, the pressure is obvious. If competitors can use AI to automate outreach, accelerate research, parallelize coding work, or operate workflows across software tools, then everyone else will feel forced to adopt some version of the same playbook. That is how technology waves move from novelty to necessity. So yes, there is fear, but there is also a massive opportunity if people respond early instead of emotionally shutting down. Here's my honest read. The next year could be one of the most disruptive stretches in modern tech, not necessarily because one giant breakthrough happens overnight, but because many smaller breakthroughs are stacking. Better reasoning, better coding, better tool use, better agent management, better computer use, better scientific assistance, better multi-step workflow execution. Each individual upgrade sounds manageable. Together, they change what is practical. Is talking about eventually moving from monitoring after actions to potentially evaluating and blocking risky actions before execution. Is giving models more ability to act through computers. Is pushing models deeper into science and engineering. These are not isolated product tweaks. They are pieces of a bigger shift toward AI systems that can do more of the work pipeline from start to finish. That means the people who still think AI is just a chatbot are already behind the story. The real story is that AI is becoming infrastructure for cognition, automation, and execution. And once that happens, it stops being optional for entire sectors of the economy. So, has AI evolved so quickly that even AI engineers are scared? I would say this. Some of the people building AI are clearly impressed, some are deeply excited, some are racing ahead, and some are cautious enough that they are publishing safety frameworks, monitoring internal agents, studying job exposure, and building systems to review or eventually block risky behavior. That combination tells you everything. The smartest people in the room are not acting like this is business as usual. They are acting like the age of passive software is ending, and the age of active machine collaborators has already begun. And if that's true, then the question is no longer whether AI will change your world. The question is how prepared you'll be when it does. If you want to stay ahead of the curve, don't just watch AI. Learn how it works, learn where it fails, learn where it's heading, and most importantly, learn how to use it better than the average person. Because fear alone won't help. Hype alone won't help. But understanding, that might be the one advantage that still compounds. AI isn't slowing down. The real question is, are we ready?